Hello. I originally purchased my kit plane in 2006, and it came with bungees for the landing gear. And because it took me quite a while to build my aircraft, before I was ready for test flying, it appeared the bungee was getting weak, and the landing gear was already starting to spread under its empty weight in the shop. So it was time to change the bungees, which is kind of a norm for experimental. Usually about 5 years you need to really be looking at all your rubber parts and plastics and things like that. So when I went to replace the bungee, I tried to get a hold of the manufacturer, but that didn't work out too well. And wanted to use the same bungee setup that they had, which was a 48-inch length 3/8 bungee. This is a mil-spec bungee for aircraft. It has a different kind of stretch to it than your normal exercise type bungee, something you'd use for tie downs, things like that. Still a good bungee, that other type. Can still be used on aircraft, such as holding the nose of a ski or something like that on an aircraft. But for landing gear, at a really structural point, you really need to use the correct mil standard bungee. So out of all that, I've had to make my own bungee cords. Now the manufacturer for my kit used a crimp type wedge, and that's I can get a hold of the wedges, but to be able to crimp these, I need about a $2,000 crimper, and I just can't seem to do that. Plus, I did some testing on this bungee, and under a load, this bungee decreases in diameter, gets very thin, and as it does, it actually pulls through this wedged clamp. And under full max load, under really heavy stress, it'll actually pull itself all the way around here, pulling itself thin, and through here. I was able actually on a vise to pull on this until this became shorter and came all the way. It actually pushed its way all the way up to the end of this piece of tape in here. So this is, probably for me, I don't know. I would say it was just kind of a marginal use. So I feel comfortable moving away from that and doing something that's a little more, well, let's call it old-fashioned, but used quite a bit out there for many, many years, and I'm going to give it a try. And I wanted to document some of it because it's a little bit, there's a little bit to it, and I wanted to have my own notes on how I did it and why I did it. Most of the information that I'm going to be talking about for bungees comes from an article published by EAA, and it's a real nice article. It was actually republished because people have asked about this. I don't have the author's name right here. I do have it documented in my paperwork because I want to give credit where credit is due. But it's all about bungee and spring shock absorbers for aircraft, and how to actually tie and make bungees. There's a fair amount, technique to it, and so what I wanted to do is break this up into a couple of series. The first series is this particular video, and it's more or less about bungees, which I've told you some already. There's just a little bit more to about bungees, which is when you purchase the bungees, it comes with color stripes on the bungee itself, and there's always going to be 2 stripes with a third different color, and what that stands for is the year it was manufactured. And you want to use a bungee that's relatively fresh, so you can sort of track it down. This being what they do is they have colors. Let's see, yellow, black, green, red, blue. Yellow, black, green, red, blue, and then that repeats itself every 5 years. So this one is 2 yellows and a red. So this was 2005, first quarter. That's the other side of the other color is the quarters. And basically the way that works, if you wanted to look at the document, this is it here. So basically the year repeats itself every 5 years, and then the quarters are the 4 other colors. So this being red, I believe that makes it January, February, March, I think it is. See if I have that right. Yeah, January, February, March. No, I'm sorry, that's yellow. The black, April, May, June. So again, they repeat itself. So you have to basically get all your years. This starts at 79 and goes down to 94, but they track through all the way to today. So this bungee here was the original that was on that came in my kit. So today I've purchased some new bungee from Aircraft Spruce, and as you can see, this is yellow, yellow, red, which if I've done my months correctly, that comes out to let's see, that comes out to 2014. Red being October, November, December. That doesn't seem quite right. I'll have to rethink that a little bit, but it's the, you can see how the dates move in the bungee, and you can have a fresher bungee cord. Other than that, that's about it for About Bungee. So the next video I'm going to do is about how to, what they call, whip the ends of the bungee. And it's a technique of tying off the ends rather than using the wedged end like this type. You actually whip the ends like this. So it's basically, you're tying it with we're going to be using it's a waxed rib stitch thread. This particular one I did some testing on after doing some practice, and I'll show you later on in the same video what happens here under a load. This particular one, I actually put this under a load, and then so I stretched it so it was completely stretched tight as if it were on an aircraft. And then what I did was I took a razor blade to it and started cutting the bands to see what would happen, to see if it would unravel, to see if it would break and pull through. And I was astonished at full max load on this cord that I just kept cutting, and this cord would not let this bungee unravel. So I was very impressed, and I'm very happy with the results. As you can see, it's cut all the way down to the original bungee cord. So, and there's a video on that, so you'll see that later. Alright, well that concludes About Bungees. Now let's move on to actually whipping the ends and making the cord.